Please stand for the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All members are present except for Greg. So the minutes that were tabled for May 12th, from May 12th, I guess the numbers have been, the question has been resolved. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
John, you're all set with that?
I abstain.
Yes, Mary.
Minutes from June 2nd. Does everyone have those minutes? A motion to approve those minutes?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
On page 3, on the second paragraph, the last line, it said, Mr. Brian Currently, Emergency Management, last Board of Selectmen meeting, would like to see attorney's approval of this. The question really was there a mandate or a law requiring a vote in the town? And this is too opaque a reference to that question.
Okay, I didn't know you said that, what you said, so. Okay.
John, John, if I may, I mean, I believe your question was, do you believe the town would have liability, legal
That was part
liability?
of it. That was
Okay,
the second one.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thanks for the reminder, Carl.
make that correction. Any other discussion? With that correction, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And no abstentions. Is there any public comment? No public comment. Selectmen's report.
So, thank you for taking me first. I have another meeting to go to. A couple things I want to address. And I'll do some other items, and then I'll address, I think, an item that people would like to hear about. We had a lot of rain for the first time in a while, and there is a major leak that was occurring in the land use office, in the town planner's office. We're going to try to put it through as an insurance claim, but I can't guarantee that will be covered. We had a roofer look at it yesterday, and it appears that a rubber gutter has been pulled away from the shingles, and water is going in there, and so we are going to have that. We're going to put it through insurance. I mean, the whole gutter system in the front of the building could have to be replaced, and my guess is that something like that would be, you know, 20 to 30. That's a guess, by the way. The roofer didn't give me a price, but I'm just telling you that could be an issue coming up, and I will let you know as to whether it's accepted by KERMA as a liability claim. Since the last meeting, we interviewed, so we received $166,000 Brownfields assessment grant for the old custom marine site. Everybody remembers that. The state of Connecticut on their DAS website has approved engineering companies that do this type of work. We pre-selected 2 that are on that approved list, and confirmed that we do not have to go out to bid for this because it's on a state bid list. We interviewed 2. They put in RFPs. We did ask for RFPs. We had a committee of Don Lucas, who's a professional engineer. I thought that would be wise. Myself, Susie Beckman, and Christine Nelson And the finals were a company called GZA, which is quite a large engineering company. I think they're nationwide. And Ty and Bond, which is Northeast mostly. Ty and Bond, I mean, it's not small, it's 150 to 200, whereas GZA, I think, is 500-600. Both highly qualified, obviously. Both do a lot of this type of work. There was a price difference, so that was the distinguishing factor. And that is what we went by. One bid was 145, one was 125 or so. So we chose the low bid, and that's the way that happened. So we are meeting with them next Thursday, I believe, to go over a proposed contract that they'll put in front of us, and they will get started. Just so everybody here knows, because this is a grant that came through the Board of Finance, that process from start through a phase 3 will be approximately a year, so it'll be a little while. We do have some tax appeals pending. I just want you to know that the Coles Big Y that property took a tax appeal. Donnelly's took a tax appeal. The old Donnelly's property took a tax appeal. And some Fenwick houses took a tax appeal. And there were a couple others, but those are the larger ones that could affect revenue as they move down the line. I've been keeping you updated on that.
How much,
I'm sorry?
how much do you,
Well, I mean, for instance, on Donnelly's, we have it at 6 million, they came in at 2 million, okay? So, you know, those things, and the Big Y, we don't have any concrete information from them, they just filed it, okay? So, all they have to do in their filing is say that the town's assessment is too high. That's all they have to do. At some point, they have to produce an appraisal, but not yet.
There's if you go on a website, you look at Big Y, it says their building cost $9 million. Right on.
Norm, I talked to Norm about it. He feels that the value that we have established has already been reduced once, and that he feels it's quite a fair value. So as that plays out, I will keep you informed. I did on some of the other appeals that we took, that were taken, and I'll keep you informed on these. One other matter of note is we have entered, I think we've had 2 sessions. The dispatchers are up for negotiations. We've had 2 sessions. We have another one on Friday at 10 a.m. So, with that, without saying any more about what's occurred in the negotiations, I would love for one member of the Board of Finance to watch this because it's painful.
When is it again?
Friday at 10.
I'll be there.
There can be 2, if you know, Brad is on, you know, if John or Barry, if you'd like to sit in. You're not, let me be clear. You're not allowed to participate, you're allowed to witness, and they're confidential, okay? But I would love for someone to witness what goes on here. This is a bargaining unit. The representative is, I find him to be particularly opinionated, we'll say that. And it's an interesting process, so I'd like someone to see what goes on.
so just Brad, not anybody?
Whoever, probably 2 at the most, so if John or Barry want to get together, if not, I'll see Brad on Friday at 10. Between the last meeting and this meeting, at the last meeting, this issue came up. Marine Strategic Planning Committee. And the chief and his representatives came in and suggested a rental option. We heard from the public extensively on that. In the interim, the matter went to the Harbor Management Commission. Actually, the chairman of the Harbor Management Commission is in attendance tonight. So the Harbor Management Commission, and if Ray wants to speak to this, he may. If he doesn't have to. But by a vote of 3-2, approved funds to support the rental of a vessel for Marine Patrol for 3 months. So there's a couple questions that are still pending, but in terms of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going, I'd like to just be on the record with a few things here. So we've all heard that the chief wanted to replace the current boat. We've heard that. I heard it from Grant Westerson at least 5 years ago, before I was first selectman. Money was never put away, and the chief did ask if he should apply for a grant. And I think he did before this board, and he did before me, because I wasn't gonna give him money to buy a new boat. I couldn't, the budgets are always tight. He did apply for a grant. They didn't get it 1 year, and they did get it the second year. So I supported that application. I didn't know everything about that application, but I did support it, and it went down. That particular referendum was voted down about 1,100 to 700, as I recall. There were probably several reasons why that vote was voted down. I've heard 2 reasons. One of them is it's a Homeland Security grant, and people did not know what was inside that grant application. And it was not going to be disclosed. And by the way, it won't be disclosed, from what I've heard, as long as that grant is out there. And there's probably another reason, and I think it is the actions that were videotaped in October of 2014. I mean, let's not beat around the bush, okay? So that is partly, I think, what led to the high turnout and perhaps the negative vote. So the chief did inform me that he wanted to ask Harbor Management Commission to see if they would consider a rental. And I put him in touch with Ray Collins, and there was a discussion. It was in my office, and the chief requested of Ray, can I come to your meeting next Monday? And he did go to that meeting, and then that vote took place. Now, where that goes from here, from a process point of view, there's been some concerns raised about the process at the Harbor Management Committee meeting. I'll leave that to the chairman of the Harbor Management Commission. A lot of people wonder what the jurisdiction, number one, of the Harbor Management Commission is, and the jurisdiction not only of what they control, but their monies. And I can tell you right now that Mr. Gaduti has schooled me quite well on the jurisdiction of the Harbor Management Commission, both in what they are allowed to do and their money. We've had a discussion back and forth about plantings at the North Cove guardrail. And Mr. Gaduti is very protective of that strip of land. So I've had those discussions with Mr. Gaduti, and the Harbor Management Commission is a statutory creature that has quite a bit of its own powers and jurisdiction. Leasing and buying a boat, leasing and or buying a boat, I haven't read that. I'm sure it's not specifically says you can lease a boat, you can buy a boat. It would be a matter of interpretation, and I think Mr. Collins could make that argument, and he may make that argument tonight. So that was a Harbor Management Commission decision. That's where we are. So where that discussion goes from here, from a process point of view, or a leasing point of view, over the next 3 months, will be entirely within the jurisdiction of the Harbor Management Commission. As for the future of any kind of a boat, okay, as I see it, Well, I've had a couple suggestions, so let me back up a little bit. After the last Board of Finance meeting, there were 3 schools of thought in this room. That's what I came away with. I came away with, for instance, Mr. Connolly wrote me a nice, beautiful, long, well-reasoned email the next day. And basically said, yes, they should have a boat, and it should primarily be on the river. Is that reasonably accurate, Paul?
Yes.
I don't want to... Of course, we've heard the police chief say he does not believe that meets the mission of the police department and Marine Patrol. And there are others in this room, and I heard that don't believe that they should have a boat at all. I was out for a run on Sunday morning with several guys I go for a run with at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And one of them was like, they shouldn't have a boat. The people voted it down. So there are 3 schools of thought here. They should have a boat that should be able to go wherever it needs to go. There should be a boat, it should be in the river, they shouldn't have a boat. After the Board of Finance meeting last, 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, there was also some discussion at that meeting. Why does Old Saybrook, and we've heard this before, on other issues, why does Old Saybrook have to do everything alone? Why can't we do things with other towns? I called Bonnie Ream-Snyder the next day. She is the Democratic First Select Woman in Old Lyme, because I heard Old Lyme had 2 boats. That's what came out of that meeting that Tuesday. Old Lyme has 2 boats. Why can't we use one of their boats or something like that? So I called Bonnie, and the fact of the matter is they have 1 boat. They were given a boat by East Haddam, I think, in Chester, which they then, quote unquote, regifted to Niantic because it was a bay boat. And they didn't, Old Lyme did not think that boat would suffice for the river. And that is a boat that Mr. Gadudi sent me a picture of, saying, hey, Old Lyme got this from East Haddam in Chester. They don't have that boat anymore. They gave it away. They do have another boat that is on its last legs. In fact, this is the final year they will be using that boat, and they put $85,000 in their 15-16 budget that begins on July 1 towards the purchase of a new boat. And Bonnie specifically said to me, I need a boat that will go in Long Island Sound because we have Sound View, and I want to be able to run a boat in front of Sound View. So that is what Old Lyme is looking for, and that is just a matter of information. That is nothing else. I just say that because a little bit about Old Lyme came out at the last meeting. So I bring that up. The other idea that's come up since then is the idea of an ad hoc committee of the Board of Selectmen. Hey Carl, the Board of Selectmen should appoint an ad hoc committee to I don't even know what that committee would do. Either determine the needs of the Marine Patrol, come up with a boat plan, and I thought about that. And there are several people, both Republicans and Democrats, who have mentioned, hey, the idea of a committee might be a good idea. And I'm still open to listen on that issue. But I've thought about that a lot. And at the moment, I am against forming an ad hoc committee. And this is why. I believe there can only be one result from a committee, okay? And that one result, well, there can be several results, but I think there's only one result that will, from what I've heard from the chief, satisfy public safety. So if that ad hoc committee comes out and says, we need a boat that will patrol the river, I do not believe, and I'm not being accusatory of the chief, I do not believe he would support that. He's not in the room, he's at a 3rd grade graduation tonight, so let's give him that. And if the committee came out and said, we don't need a boat, I don't think that would be acceptable. And if the committee came out and said, we do need a boat, it's that boat, whether it's the FEMA boat or whether it's the boat that we saw last week for $200,000, it would have to go to referendum. And I think that would be the only option that would make it to referendum if this board supported it. And then the question is, would the public support it? So I don't see the purpose of an ad hoc committee. I don't see how that moves the conversation forward. So there are a lot of issues that we deal with every year. And in 3 months, whether the police have a boat this summer or not, in 3 months, the Marine Patrol will not have a boat. And it's possible that may be the case next year. And I said that to the chief the other day. I said, it is possible you will not have a boat next year. And he said, I know. And there are 3 positions: no boat, a river boat, or a boat that can go farther into the sound. I believe that eventually, there are issues that come up every year in the budget process. Public Works might want a new piece of machinery. It doesn't get by my board. It may not get by this board. Every department wants more money. It doesn't get by my board, or it gets by my board. It doesn't get by this board. This may be an issue that we discuss on a regular basis. And eventually, maybe there's that conversation that happens that, hey, we found the right compromise. This is something people will support. This board will support it, and it will go to the public, and the public will support it. It may not happen. But I think a committee, an ad hoc committee of the Board of Selectmen, I don't think will be productive. I think it may be even more divisive as we move forward. It will keep the same arguments alive that we're going through right now. And so honestly, maybe we need a reset on this. And maybe we need to have this process go through a democratic process, either every year, and it gets by the Board of Selectmen or by the Board of Finance, or it doesn't. And you know, the public has spoken on this issue to a large extent. And that's where I am on this issue right now. And that is your Marine Patrol update. You may not even have to address that item on your agenda.
Thanks.
But I wanted to be clear as to where I see we are now and where I think we might be going. And it's unclear where we're going with Marine Patrol. There are people in this community who fervently believe we need Marine Patrol. I happen to think, I've been out on boats. I think it's a crap show. I won't say, I think it can be crazy out on the river. And I gave, someone was in my office today, and I said, one of the reasons I think you probably eventually need a Marine Patrol, I have my boating license, okay? I got my boating license because I knew someone who got a Sea-Doo, and they said, you need a boating license to drive the Sea-Doo, so you might as well get your boating license. That gives me the right to go get a 40-foot boat right now and drive it. You don't want me driving a boat, and that's funny, but it's true, okay? And there's guys like me out there, okay? There's guys like me out there, and some of them are drinking. But we are where we are right now, and perhaps a committee will be formed at some point. But not right now. I think this is where we are. What happens this summer is to be determined. I don't believe a lease has been signed yet, whether it is, and whether there's a Marine Patrol this summer, I don't know. So those are my comments on that. Brad?
Question, who oversees the Marine Patrol budget?
Well, the chief submits it.
Who oversees the Marine Patrol, and forget the budget for a minute?
Marine Patrol is overseen by the chief.
Okay. Now, who's he report to?
He-
Police Commissioner or you?
Well, he reports to the police commission, but he is a town employee.
Okay.
He's a town employee,
So
so
then
he reports to me.
Police Marine
What?
portion falls under the police department.
Yes, well, I mean, it does fall under the police department, yes. I mean, I don't think any selectman has ever said, I want to take control of that budget.
Well, like you have emergency management, it really is under your jurisdiction.
Yeah,
So, what I was trying to find out is if the police commission has jurisdiction over the police marine.
of what, over what?
The police marine,
No, I think the police commission strictly deals with the police department budget.
Marine Patrol is basically under the operation and of the chief. That is not answerable to the police commission. However, it's also important for everyone to understand, basically, the police commission, the chief doesn't really answer to us per se. I can't pick up the phone as the chairman of the police commission and tell the chief to do something. I'm not Tom Selleck on Blue Bloods. I don't have lights on my car, I don't carry a town-owned gun. If you look at the state statutes and the town charter, we are an elected board. We do budgeting, we do hiring, we do firing, we do promotions. So I don't have direct control over anybody in the police department, nobody. I must admit, and I want everyone to understand, the chief and I have conversations on a continuing, ongoing basis, many times, 2 and 3 times a week, about various different issues. Now, can I tell him how to handle an issue? No. But we do have a conversation, and most times we come to an understanding as to how it should be handled. So statutorily, what powers do I have? Virtually none. However, I have a working relationship with the chief, and we don't always agree. But he has come around to discussing many more things, I think, than he ever did. And we discuss and usually, eventually end up agreeing as to a course of action in a particular situation.
So my question is, if the police marine patrol is under the police department, why is that a separate identity? Why isn't that thrown into the police as a whole?
It's been that way since the 1970s.
Yeah,
Nobody knows why.
probably a matter of form more than function, just the way the budgets have been presented. Brett, did you?
I have a concern on, you talk about an ad hoc committee and how you think it's really useless because, what are the-
Useless is a strong word.
Well, not useless,
I'm
but-
not in favor of it at the moment.
Right, well, your concern is that they would come up with a result, and Chief would say no, because this is the only result. Well, what if we come up with the same result? He's gonna keep saying, well, this is the only result. Where do you get to a point where, as a selectman, as the Board of Finance, and as chief, you have to relent? This is what we say, does it say this is what you're gonna get? He said, well, I'm not gonna use it, and then that's it?
It's a stalemate.
Okay.
I mean, that's where we are right now.
Okay.
And I think one of the reasons where we are is because everybody disrespected the process right from the get-go.
Yeah.
When they came to us, and when they came here the second time, this didn't go through the Board of Selectmen we saw last week, or 2 weeks ago. It didn't go through the process. And going to harbor management doesn't go through the process. If you disrespect the process, you disrespect the public. And that's where I'm coming from. It has nothing to do with the vote. You keep going around the process, around the people that are supposed to be making the decisions, and you did it again. You put this in front of us, and then you go to harbor management. They can have that vote and manage the whole thing,
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah.
you know?
One thing that I'm not sure everyone in this room understands, and if I'm incorrect, if Ray could correct me, the funds that they have available to them, whether it's for a new dock, a lease, somebody told me you're putting water in somewhere, for whatever purpose that the Waterfront Commission decides to spend money, that is not town money in the sense that it came from taxes. That is money that is being reinvested into the waterfront by the Waterfront Commission, whose job it is to oversee it, and that money comes from boaters who use slips at the town dock and who have their boats on moorings.
Well, then why didn't we go to harbor management in the beginning? If they say that they're, I'm reading.
But my point is that was not a circumvent of your board. Your board doesn't have authority over
It
that
is a
money.
circumvent of our board. He came to us and said,
Not
Let's
from
not-
the Harbor Management Commission side of it.
that's great, then why didn't he go to them in the beginning? If you've got the
Right.
funds, go to them in the beginning, because now, as personally, And he did circumvent the process. They got the money, they wanna give it to him, it's all boating money, you pay for it, out of our hands. We can't touch that money, it's not town money, I understand that and I respect that. But don't come to us before and ask us for the money, say, let's talk about this process, let's work together on this process. And then say that there's no way we're gonna get, he just says, okay, there's no way I'm gonna get money, this is my last resort, I have to go to harbor management, and he goes there. He never discussed it with us, he doesn't know what the last resort was. It was left that we were gonna discuss this, and no decisions were made last week, or 2 weeks ago. Come before us again, we're gonna have the discussion some more. That's the circumventing of the
The
process.
problem right now is that it is now June 15th. We have no police boat.
Compliments of the chief.
That's not our fault, though.
That's not our
his
fault.
I'm worried about, I don't care about the chief and I don't care about anything else except for already this season, we've had 2 instances where we should have had a police boat because people's lives were in danger and we didn't have a boat
You
to go
should
help.
worry about it, as the police commission, you should worry about it, because he's putting the public in danger then, the way he's reacting, and he's acting towards us, and the public. I mean, if it's under the police commission's disciplinary control, he's putting the town in jeopardy, he's doing this. It's not us, it's not the town saying no.
So I would suggest that if anyone wants to attend a police commission meeting, talk about what the police commission can and can't do with the chief, that's one thing. If anyone wants to attend the harbor management commission to discuss what they can and can't do with their own money, they should do that. My personal opinion is, if the chief wants to go have a bake sale on the town green, as long as he's got the proper permits and he raises money for a boat, let him do it. If the harbor management wants to take over the entire marine patrol without any tax dollars, have at it. I say, great, you've
I'd
done
say
us a
too.
great favor. The taxpayers of the town that live as far away from the water as possible and never even see the water, they're happy tonight. The people that have boats and moorings and all that want the marine patrol, they're happy tonight.
I'm in favor of that.
That's all I can say about it.
I have another question. With this 3-month lease, we were proposing 4-month lease for $23,200, and I'm told the new lease is $17,800 for 3 months.
Well,
Are you expecting the $59.45 in maintenance fees also?
What?
Are you expecting the $59.45 that's in the general budget to fix the
All
lease
we're,
boat?
the only thing, well, first of all, let me say a little background. First of all, I saw the October meeting and I understand the disdain for the chief. But from my point of view, it's not about him, it's about safety for our citizens. We've got the largest coastline in the state of Connecticut. We've got 9 marinas just in Saybrook. We're at the mouth of the river, where we got marinas going all the way up to Hartford, getting that boat traffic coming out here. I was on the water in the river Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the idiots are out there because there's nobody stopping them. And it's really a problem. Now, the other thing is, you don't have a boating license, you have a certificate.
Oh, okay.
It's not a license.
Another reason I should drive.
No, I'll tell you, the 2 no votes are in the room, Mr. Wall, Mr. Goody.
Mr. Gadudy will speak when you finish.
We have not discussed this portion, but I'm pretty sure we want no part of owning a boat and operating a police boat. That's up to the police people, not us. I want to read one thing so that you understand some of the reasons for our concern. We have a harbor management plan. It was approved by the town and by the state. And this is the wording. The Harbor Management Commission, Police Department, and Old Saybrook Harbor Master should coordinate their actions and authorities to increase public awareness of town, state, and federal laws, regulations, and ordinances affecting use of harbor management area and shoreline, and to achieve effective enforcement of those laws, regulations, and ordinances. When the chief came to me, when I first talked to him, he said, well, we're not going to have a marine patrol this year. I find that insulting. How can you not have marine patrol in this shoreline community with the largest shoreline in the state and probably the largest boating activity? So what's up? well, you're our last resort, we need money to lease it. The only thing that we have agreed to is to fund the 5,900, I think it's 17,400, not 800. For 3 months, we made it explicitly clear that that's it, there's not gonna be any more money. And it's 3 months, not 4 months, because June has flown by, and it was originally gonna be for June as well. So it's 3 months. And, you know, hopefully, lives are saved. Hopefully, there's nothing happening out there. But we really, in my opinion, you have to understand, I served 4 years active duty in the Coast Guard. I was in the Coast Guard Reserve, and I was an instructor in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So I believe in safe boating. And I see some of the stuff that's going on here. And all you need is a boat out there with a light flashing, and the idiots are gonna see it, and they're gonna slow down, and everybody's gonna be safe. I also think you need a boat that's capable of going on Long Island Sound, because we have so much of the sound is part of our area of concern. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And we've got both the pro and the con here.
Again, I would suggest if there are questions for the Harbor Management Commission, to go to the Harbor Management Commission meeting, because after all, this is the Board of Finance meeting, and unless it pertains to the Board of Finance, and there'll be plenty of time for public comment at the end, I think that we should stick to what we have in front of us. And this, any other questions for Carl?
No questions, I have comments, no questions.
I have a question for Carl. Carl, are you aware of what boat issues were discussed and what boat is going to be leased and what its function's gonna be or anything?
I assume the boat that's going to be leased is the boat that was before you that's in here.
No, it's a towboat US boat. They've got 3, I've seen the boat. It's at between the Bridges Marina.
Ray, it's not the boat that was in this
No,
proposal.
it's
So, no.
Yes, it
No,
is.
that's like
Yes, it is.
50-something
Regular
thousand.
towboat US, twin outboards.
Okay.
Yeah,
Carl, I got
hard
a
bottom
question.
table.
The maintenance budget is $5,945.
Yeah.
Since we don't own a boat, I suggest that we freeze that.
If we have a marine patrol, then there's
Marine fuel.
marine patrol budget.
Operating budget.
You're gonna pay personnel and you're going
No, the
to.
$5,945 was for repairs to the boat. I'm not talking about,
Yeah, oh, you're not talking about
not
personnel.
talking personnel or
Well,
gasoline or
I mean,
anything
if
else.
it needs maintenance or repairs, you
Well, are
know,
we leasing it with repairs or without repairs?
I assume it's just a straight lease and that we're responsible for repairs or
That
maintenance.
bounces back to the Board of Finance though. When they're making an obligation to lease a boat, there's obligation to the town. There's obligation
if
for
it would-
insurance, liability, and also this repair account.
The repair account would, I would assume apply, I would assume. I haven't seen the contract for lease, so maybe it includes, maybe it includes that. Maybe it includes maintenance.
What I don't like is, we're the Board of Finance, and somebody's gonna sign a lease, I'm not quite sure who yet. Then the town liability comes on for insurance, liability, repairs, it's back to the town. It's not right.
Repairs, I don't know,
What happens if they hit a rock and put a hole in the boat? We own it.
probably.
Carl, do you know who's responsible for signing the lease?
Do I know who is responsible? I know that it is not a I know what it isn't. It is not a Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen voted action. So I don't believe I have any authority to sign it.
Okay.
I guess, so my question though is, if someone else signs it, so Harbor Management signs it,
No,
and then, well, I don't know, hypothetically, someone signs this, it's not town money
No.
being used, it comes
Providing
back
funds.
to, it comes back to Brad's question of the town umbrella. Someone else is signing something that's not a town affiliate of a commission, but yet then the Marine Patrol budget comes into play when it's not a boat that we've, the towns. So then that's not our asset, so then the liability insurance, maintenance.
We don't own our police cars. We lease them.
No, we
We
don't.
leased
We
them.
own, no, we own them. We have
We
a
lease all
finance.
It was a lease purchase, but at some point, we
Lease to
leased.
buy.
No, hold on. It's a Bob, actually, that's not right. It's a financing agreement we have with them. We own the cars.
Does the town of Old Saybrook lease anything?
Do we lease anything? What do we lease?
Office up here.
Oh, yeah, copiers, right. That was a finance agreement. That was, we financed that at a favorable one.
So we've got this triangle here that, so someone signs for this boat, but then can they put it in the water under
Well, it
the
hasn't been
Saybrook
signed
name?
for yet.
But it's
So-
just a question.
And we will look at that.
They haven't even decided who's gonna sign it.
Well, right, but
Well,
yeah, I'm just trying to, the process of it though,
That's to get us back to the process.
Right.
you know, you jumped the gun on it, so let's think about the process, okay? Someone signs it, but it's not a town signee. So then the town is obligated supposedly, but then what if we don't?
Maybe not.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. So, that will be addressed in the lease, I would imagine.
But from a liability standpoint, they're gonna go to the deepest pocket, and that's the town.
Always. You're,
So the town is gonna end up with the liability on anything that happens to it. Whether it's signed by harbor management, they don't have enough money, they're gonna go after who's got the deepest pocket. That's the process.
But it's not processed as the town that we're buying into. Someone else is buying into it. You know, we're like the cosigner on this then. They
They're-
screw
they're-
up and it comes right to us.
We pay for the boat, we take the
I'll
lot.
tell you what, you'll be named in a lawsuit, in the end, you'll be the one paying the bill. It's the deepest pocket, that's the way the world works.
But that's not what we're buying into though. That's not what that's what we're trying to say here is that we do not wanna buy into that as the town and be liable for that when harbor management's the one that's going to have to, you know, sign off on this.
All we're doing is providing funds.
Well-
All right, so.
Why can't we advise the chief to come back to the process?
Well,
And
we
let's
certainly can.
get the finance board, the board of selectmen involved in the whole issue.
Yep.
And go back the right way and let it be decided by the proper channels.
Couldn't agree more.
you can make that I mean, you guys can
I
make that
guess somebody should
recommendation.
make that recommendation.
I'll make a motion, we put that on the agenda.
All right.
New business.
Okay. This agenda?
On this agenda?
Next
No,
meeting.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right.
All right, so that will be on the agenda next week, next 2 weeks.
I have a couple more questions.
It's actually gonna be,
Are we still open with Carl?
Yeah.
Carl, we've had difficulty in obtaining facts, figures, and data from the police chief in reference to the needs, requirements, and amount of responses that have occurred with the police boat.
okay.
Do we know now what information is available to determine that we need a police boat? And is the police boat going to be a Connecticut River patrol boat? Is it gonna be able to patrol the beaches that may need policing, going into Back River and different areas, all the way over to Chalker Beach when we talk about Long Island Sound? Has any of that information come out that we've requested or talked about to justify a police boat?
Well, I'm not familiar with any
Okay.
numbers, you know, how many boating under the influence or accidents or investigations. One thing I said last time is the reason why there's police cars on the road are as a deterrent, okay? So
Yep.
that's one argument. With regard to, you were saying kind of going up into some of the, like the Oyster River.
Do we know
right?
the size that's gonna be leased, whether it can fit into Oyster River,
Well,
Back River?
I think that, no, I actually don't. I mean, I haven't
No,
looked at
I know.
the draft of the boat
Because
and whether.
Mr. Collins talked about a different boat than what we have here, that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions for Carl? You had a comment?
The only comment I had is if the boat had gone through on a referendum, this boat would be in the water working. And to go and get it surveyed after the fact was way out of line. And another effort to put pressure on boards instead of going through the process. So, that's why there's so many problems.
Right.
So we would suggest that we put police officers on the water and on safe boat.
Well, that's what they said during their slideshow. They said that they would use this current boat for the next 2 years.
Mr. Chairman, I've patiently been quiet, and you're
I
letting
understand
everyone
that,
else speak.
and other than the
Right.
chairman of the harbor management and the chairman of the police commission,
Right.
I'd ask that there's no other public comment until which time there's public comment on the agenda, which will be very, very shortly, I promise you.
I have one more question, Carl. We own a great fireboat. It's for emergencies, also rescue. If they stuck that boat out there by the bridges, by the rail trusses, put the light on, it would deter a lot of problems. That's the omnipresence that he always talks about. I don't understand why we own an asset. We have the best police boat or fireboat in the region.
We do.
Why we don't share it with our own town? You talk about mutual aid?
Brad, you've been part of this conversation as much as I have been. You know that answer. So,
Any other questions for Carl? All right, thank you, Carl.
so first of all, thank you for putting me on early on in the agenda. I do have another meeting over at the Board of Ed that I'm going to go to.
Before you go, would you like to introduce our
There you
next
go. Oh,
guests?
well, I could also
Who've
leave.
been patiently waiting to
So,
join us.
I know it's Jennifer and Amanda, I'll tell you that much.
We can figure that.
The town did a very, we have a captive audience who will leave very shortly when I mention why you're here. The town has had the same auditors. The town has a municipal mandate to have its budget audited every year. We've had the same auditors for 7 years. The Board of Finance, it's actually a Board of Finance budgetary item. And the Board of Finance, based on the recommendation of the treasurer and the finance director, thought it was time to go out for a request for proposal for new auditors to get some new looks at our budget. And we did that. We selected 3 to interview. We interviewed 3 auditors, and the selection committee chose Mahoney Sable, which has offices in Glastonbury, Middletown, and Essex. Pretty good, yeah. So, the Board of Finance had requested that I contact Jennifer Hawkins here to see if they would come in and do a meet and greet and perhaps talk a little bit about the process. And
So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. I don't know if you want me to stand.
you're more than welcome to take my seat if you'd like.
I am Jennifer Hawkins. I am an engagement audit partner with Mahoney Sable and Company. I would be serving as your engagement partner for your audit engagement. With me tonight, I have Amanda Backus, who would serve as the manager on the audit. And we will have other team professionals that will be working with us on the audit, but so we're the only 2 representing that team tonight. We are happy to be your auditors and are thankful for the opportunity. We will be beginning our preliminary planning procedures starting the week of July 20th. During that process, we'll gain an understanding of the town, its operations, who's processing what types of significant transactions, and doing assessment of those systems. Once we do that, we then design our audit procedures, which is a risk-based approach. And we will be then conducting our final field work in October. October 12th is when we're currently scheduled to come back. That'll be about a 2 to 3 week process. Just if I back up 1 minute, our interim work, which will be beginning in July, will be about a 1 to 2 week process as well. We met with members of finance and the Board of Ed as well. The Board of Ed, the finance team, on May 21st, which was a few weeks ago, and we went over all the items that we'd be requesting for them for interim procedures and some documentation that we gather up front as a first time through type process, because we need to gain understanding of the town as a whole. And we are very thankful to report that although we're not coming till July, most of the information that we have requested has been sent to us up front. with the exception of a few things that won't be provided until after the June 30th timeline comes. So we are very happy about that and are very excited to get started in our process. Once we kind of conduct all that, we'd like to communicate to members of the Finance Department, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Finance, as if there's ever any issues that arise. We don't like to wait till the end, so if there's anything that does come up on our interim work, we will report to the appropriate channels to make sure that's communicated. We don't like any surprises. So typically that'll, we'll be out here in July, we'll still come back in October, so if there's any issues, we'll be communicating in that, August, September timeframe before we come back out for final field work. We expect to provide drafts of the financial statements to both management and the members of the Board of Finance mid-November, and present the audit sometime thereafter. Audit results December, before we issue final audit reports, which are due this date to be filed by December 31st. So that's typically what we do and how we do it. I would like to stress that if there's any concerns that the board has, either now or things that come to mind that you would like us to consider as we conduct our audit process, we are open to that. Doesn't necessarily have to be communicated here tonight, but we do have an open door, if you will. So feel free to contact us, and if you'd like to have conversations, questions, issues, concerns. We're essentially engaged by the Board of Finance, so we're here to report to you.
Okay. Bob, did you have anything that?
I would just like to report that so far we're very pleased with the back and forth communication. I think we've probably communicated it daily, by email at least, putting together the information for them. And we ourselves are getting ready for June 30th, which is 2 weeks away, which is the end of the fiscal year. So I think it's going well so far.
Great.
Could you provide your contact information to our secretary,
Yes,
so she
I
can
can
provide it to all of
leave
us?
my card here.
How many people do you anticipate participating in the audit?
We typically, on a daily basis, will have the senior and 1 to 2 staff associates here as needed. Typically in the summer, we have interns that help us as well, and that process helps during the interim work, because they're doing a lot of transactional testing at that time. And the staff and the intern are here to help us. They're not here to bother the staff of the town as they're trying to get their jobs done. But typically the senior and 1 to 2 people. Amanda, as manager, will be here regularly, but not every day. And then I will be here on site as well. Usually I come out at least once during the week, sometimes twice, as issues arise. So I am very active in the field as well. So typically they could be as much as, at any given day, there could be 4 or 5 of us on site. But on average, there's always 3, so.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question about the audit? Is this proper? Excuse me if it's not. Real quick, just one question, and that is, will the audit address all of the other funds, like we just heard about the Harbor Management Fund and the Police Department has its various funds?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jennifer or Amanda? Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. And, again, thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.
So the next item agenda is the Marine Patrol update, which I think we've already had. And there's really not anyone here to address the Marine Patrol, from the Marine Patrol. So I will check that off my list and move to public comment. Mr. Goodoody.
If you read the resolution that was passed by the Harbor Management Commission, just a little background information on the resolution that was passed, and then I'll get down to really addressing you, and I will address you well. Because you're being screwed over, but be that as it may, and I'm sorry for my language, but it's typical of your duty. Okay. The first thing is, The resolution that was moved was to assist the town. It was not to assist the Marine Patrol. It was not to assist the police department. It was not to assist the police commission. It was to assist the town. It's right in there. Assist the town. That anticipated that the Harbor Management Commission would be dealing by the empty chair here. If you go back to the discussion before that, you will see that the maker of the resolution, who was Mr. Bowman, spoke about the whole thing would have to work closely with Mr. Fortuna, not with Mr. Finch, not with the police commission, but with Mr. Fortuna.
Police commission has nothing to do with it.
So the entire spirit of that resolution is gone. Because we're not dealing with the town, we're not dealing with Mr. Fortuna. He has thrown up his hands. Okay. A lot of so-called learned people have told us what the Harbor Management Fund is all about. Okay? And they've read from the Harbor Management Plan. If you go to the legislation, it says that the harbor management funds can be used for the maintenance and improvement of the harbor and for the use of the harbor master and the deputy harbor master. Now, I will suppose that someplace in there you might make the argument that funding that boat is for the improvement of the harbor, but that argument was not made. Let's get down to brass tacks. And I think this is very, very important. The boat has become minuscule. And I told you at the last meeting about the boogeyman arguments. And 2 people almost drowned and 3 people almost drowned. This is getting bigger and bigger and bigger than 2 people almost drowning and 3 people almost drowning. And the fact of the matter is, these people would not be almost drowning if they got the goddamn fireboat out, put a beacon on it, and had a rotating beacon out there. But you got power struggle after power struggle after power struggle going on about what basically is town government. And I will tell you emphatically that the Harbor Management Fund was never meant to end run the way this town is managed. And this management of this town goes through the selectmen, to this board, to the people. It has nothing to do with the police commission. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Gentlemen and ladies, you have the responsibility of this boat. And it's none of Harbor Management's business. What you're dealing with is children in adult bodies. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a child who didn't get his way. And this whole thing is in an uproar right now because of a child who didn't get his way. If your neighbor refused to buy a bicycle for whatever reason for his child, would you buy that child a bicycle? I dare say no. And I will say to you again, if you denied your child a bicycle for whatever reason, and your child went and solicited a bicycle from the neighbor, would you be upset with your child? These are the things you've got to get straightened out. Harbor Management was never made to bypass the system. And the system would not be being bypassed now if you didn't have a child in an adult's body. That's what you've got to address. If this board had come to me and said, we need $17,000 to lease a boat, I would have said in a minute, you can have the $17,000 out of Harbor Management Fund. This board didn't come to me. Somebody who had no right to come to me came to me. And that's the problem, because that person that came to me was bypassing this board. Please keep that in mind. And as far as the whole thing with Mr. Collins is concerned, first of all, there's a complaint before Freedom of Information because of the way it was handled, which I know makes no difference to you. But more than importantly, go read the resolution. The resolution calls for assistance to the town. Doesn't call for assistance to the police, doesn't call for assistance to the Marine Patrol. The town has disappeared, but he was in this empty chair. And he has refused to sign the agreement. I'm not going to take the responsibility to sign this agreement. He's not going to take the responsibility to sign this agreement. The minute you sign it, the whole umbrella of the town comes to you. The whole umbrella of the town, the liability, everything. So it's not something that harbor management can do, and it's not something that harbor management can fund without this gentleman right here signing the agreement. You went through in the budget process, you denied the money for storage for emergency management. And right away it started, and the first thing you know, the Board of Selectmen were having a meeting, and they were okaying the first selectman to sign a lease to do the same thing that you had turned down. This has got to stop. Or you can all put your hats on and go home and take the summer off. That's the problem. And I will say to you, very sincerely, I apologize to you for what harbor management has put you in the position of. Sincerely, and Dick and Duty does not apologize very often. But I apologize to you for the position that you've been put in, because it's your job, it's not harbor management's, and it makes no difference how much Mr. Collins or I or anyone else believes there should be a boat out on the river. There can be a boat out on the river, but not the way it's being done. There can be a boat out on the river tomorrow. All they got to do is put somebody on that fireboat, go out and anchor it, and let the beacon go around and around and around. That'll slow people down in a minute. Where the fire departments or anybody else ever got the idea that they can deny the town access to that fireboat is beyond me. And where the police department ever got the idea that they can't use that fireboat is beyond me. Gentlemen, we are the town. And we damn well can tell them to get in that fireboat and get out and patrol the river, and we'll worry about their needs for a boat when they quiet down and start doing things our way and not Michael Spear's way. Thank you.
Prior to harbor management approving the funds that evening, so it was a proposed lease. Was the lease reviewed by an attorney? Because I think that would have ended the bantering.
We never got that far.
So they approved the money without any attorney looking at a proposed lease, town attorney.
That's them. Carol?
Yeah, I have a comment. In 2009, 10, and 11, there was an asterisk at the bottom of the Marine Patrol when it went for a budget. And that, to the best of my knowledge, I don't have a copy in front of me and I haven't gone back and researched it, but it said that the Marine Patrol budget was under the Board of Selectmen. That asterisk disappeared. I don't know why, but I'm quite sure, and I gave my last copy away. The other thing, I guess, goes to 2 weeks ago, we heard about an accident, and did we know how long people were in the water? Tonight we're hearing that there was another accident and there were people in the water. My question is, since the fireboat is a rescue boat, and when we paid $400,000, we bought it as a fire/rescue boat, why was that boat not brought out from the same marina where the Marine Patrol is supposed to be to rescue?
It was, on both occasions.
Okay. so these people were not left there drowning.
No one drowned.
Well, I didn't say they drowned, but it makes it sound like, as a town, we said, oops, we don't have a boat. So I'm glad to know the fireboat went out. Thank you, Dave.
Simple question. In some of the policy, I just left the Board of Ed, what concerned me and something I read about this week was whether I support, or anybody in this, I've heard a different opinion, whether they support this boat or not is, to me, irrelevant. Was the policies followed the way that the board was supposed to operate for the Harbor Commission in the sense of the agenda?
You'd have to ask the Harbor Commission.
Okay, because the only reason I'm here addressing you guys is I've reached out a couple times to find out, like, what's the blanket, so you guys are financed, so I'm here. And again, however it's done is really irrelevant. What I'm seeing as a concern is a breakdown of what I'm hearing is a breakdown in policy. And so if the policy was done incorrectly, that's a separate issue. If it's done correctly, and whether people like the vote or not, they have to go with it. But, so I'm curious of who's responsible in the town of Old Saybrook for overseeing our governing body? Is it the selectmen? Is it you guys in charge of any money? So who answers anybody? So if a group goes rogue and just doesn't do a policy, who do they answer to? I might be in the wrong room. I don't know. So I'm just trying to, because the thing that does concern me, and for public record is you guys are in charge of our money. All of kudos, and men and women, I want to acknowledge that, it's concerning that if that happened and if it was a break in policy, that there's not a checks and balances within the community. Because we've had a lot of discourse, and I gotta tell you, I've been here for 9 years, I can't believe the amount of discourse, and it needs some control. So who is that body, and does anybody know?
I would ask the first selectman.
Okay, thank you, and sorry, I didn't mean to take up time, it just was muddy, so I came to you guys, thanks.
Yeah, since Carl brought it up, and I'm sorry that he's not here, but I do want to get on the record, since he did bring it up, is that there's a fourth option. It's not big boat, small boat, or no boat. The fourth option is a regional boat. Yeah, I would encourage us to actively pursue joining with our fellow shoreline towns and our river towns to buy and staff and maintain a regional asset. We didn't hear any of that in either the chief's discussion 2 weeks ago or what Carl mentioned today.
I thought he had mentioned that tonight.
Well, he's been and went over it so quickly that it was never really brought up. So anyway, I just want to get on there as a comment from the public that that's a fourth option that needs to be explored, I believe.
Chairman.
I can say this much, it is being investigated. And it has happened only within the last 2-week period of time. I don't know how far it's gone, I don't know the particulars, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, what I'm not allowed to say, so that's all I can tell you, but it is being looked into. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What I was so surprised about was the fact that the issue of the boat was not even on the agenda for the last meeting, that
You're talking about
talking about harbor management. And that, yet, there were so many people that knew about it that were there. It's amazing how certain people were there and certain people weren't. I know you don't, but that's just one of my, I don't either, but that was one of my concerns when I found out about it. How do you vote on something that's not even on the agenda? It's not right.
Any other, yes, sir?
My name's Hank Conti. I'm really disgusted with this whole police thing, okay? Starting with the commission, they need to learn how to say no more often. But you look at it, the size of our police department, okay? In '09, we had 39 full and part-time people. We now have 51. Did our town grow by 20 or 25%? No. The fireboat, again, the issue is with the rescue, and now that, why aren't they using that, okay? And their budget just keeps going up and up and up, and it's to the point of being ridiculous. And I'll tell you how ridiculous it is, okay? I looked at Madison, Clinton, and Guilford, okay? The average cost per resident in Madison is $169 for the police department. For Clinton, for Guilford, it's $208 per person. Clinton, it's $216, okay? In Old Saybrook, it's $320. Why is our police department so over budgeted compared to other towns that are almost, some of them almost double our size? It's a joke. And somebody needs to start saying no and stop, everything's gotta be the Taj Mahal, everything we do. So, that's my comment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, John Stengel, the only comment that I would like to make is, I'm not only a residential taxpayer, I'm a business taxpayer. And I'm concerned about the comment that was made earlier today, which is the process, and it seems that the process is not being followed. You know, I moved to this town 11 years ago from the south on a business transfer. I had the choice of living anywhere I wanted in the Northeast. I moved here because this was the place that I thought to raise a family, based on good values in small town, you know, a small town feeling. But I'm beginning to wonder, as a taxpayer, both from a business perspective and a residential perspective, if my money is being spent wisely. And my concern is, I could vote with my feet. I do very little business in this immediate area. Most of my business is out of the area. And if what I see is disturbing to me in terms of how the processes are not followed, at what point do I start to question whether I should continue to be a business taxpayer here? And at what point should I concern myself whether I want to be a residential taxpayer here? And if I'm asking that question, how many other businesses and residents are asking the same question? Because I could easily just move my business down the road, down towards Branford, down towards Madison, down towards Milford. It might be a bit of a commute, but at least maybe my money might be spent better elsewhere. And I to echo this gentleman here, I see a town of 10,000 that yes, doubles in population during the summer. But I question the use of how we spend our money that's being more and more allocated to one specific department, possibly at the expense of other departments. And that's why I'm here today, because 2 weeks ago, this matter was taken under consideration, and I'm a simple guy. I look at things as black and white, and so it was taken under consideration by your commission, and yet there's another meeting going on to address this, and I either see redundancy or I don't see accountability. And I feel that the power of the purse resides with your board. And if an answer is given to take something under consideration, or an answer is given yes or no, I don't know why other avenues are being sought out. And that's all I have to say about the matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I have no comments. Everything's been said.
Just one
Yes.
we still haven't got a resolution.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
We still haven't got a resolution.
Right.
And the mystery is going to continue.
Who's up first?
You're right.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why would you not seek a legal opinion from an advisory standpoint from your town attorney? to
And I
determine-
would suspect that we will, if and when it gets to that
And
point.
it's advisory, it's not an issue that you waited this long. I mean, that should have been the first issue when you had the conflict.
So the legal responsibility on a lease was already asked for.
I'm
That's
talking about
before-
the conflict between agencies and government aid. It's a charter or a statutory issue that has to be resolved.
And-
Got a town attorney,
Yep.
make
And I called the town attorney last week when I first heard about this, and he was on vacation. So it's not as if we're not doing anything, because we are. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.